Hey, so, first up, one of the boring notes. I'm not going to be doing this video in French, Spanish, or Portuguese, as I usually have been. My command of those languages is it's okay, but not really good enough for the rambling, unscripted way I want to be doing this. I think I'll save those for a once a month kind of planned video kind of thing, much more heavily scripted. That way I don't sound like quite such a horse's ass when I talk in those languages. So instead, today, so no foreign languages, just English, and I will be talking about Avengers: Infinity War. I managed to get around to seeing that on Wednesday, and wow. Okay, so no spoilers right away. There will be, spoilers later. First, I just want to say that I loved it. I loved it. It was a really, really excellent movie. Really, just an intense movie. I mean, it's nearly 3 hours long. So pace yourself when it comes to drinking your soda. And definitely don't drink like a large coffee or anything before you go in there. It was a bit lighter on the jokes. Not that there weren't any, but just they went a bit lighter. This is definitely a heavier movie, a darker movie. I don't think you can take you shouldn't take the kids to this movie, especially not like really little kids. If I were in there and your 2-year-old was shitting himself and then taking his diaper off and putting him in the seat next to him, I would kill you, I think, with my soda. Yes, that's something that actually happened. Not to me, but to a friend. So yeah, it's a long, intense, and somewhat darker movie. Not as dark as their Netflix series is. It's a bit lighter than that, but darker than a typical fare. Now, I want to address a common critique I've seen around. One in particular that's linked down in the thing. This movie, it's characterized as an advertisement for all the other Marvel movies. They don't really bother to introduce the characters. And that's true, they don't. I mean, hell, it starts in the middle of the story. And it doesn't really make sense unless, you've already seen Thor 3, the way they started, on the ship full of Asgardians. So, yeah, it's like, I kind of get where they're coming from. If you come into this movie not knowing a whole lot about the Marvel universe, the film universe that they've set up, then you're probably going to have a little bit more trouble with it. But on the other hand, this is a franchise they've been setting up since 2008. Okay, Iron Man came out in May 2008, so almost exactly 10 years ago. They've been working hard on this. This movie is the 19th, okay? Infinity War is the 19th movie in the Marvel film franchise. I think they've earned the right to say that, okay, most people already know who these people are. We're not going to belabor the introductions on most of these. We're just going to let characters who know each other, and we're going to let characters who don't know each other not know each other. And since they're in the middle of a crisis, there will be tension, but we won't belabor the introductions. We're just going to let the action and the story take care of themselves. And sort of like how in Spider-Man Homecoming, they didn't go over Uncle Ben's death again, right? I definitely approve of the way they handled that. If you don't know who these characters are, if you're not familiar with the franchise, then yeah, I really don't know what to tell. It's like, walking in on the 7th season of a TV show and complaining that they're not going into all the backstory on all these characters are. And I think that's really the only way to approach this, is just to say, if you don't know who these people are, that's kind of on you. That this has been around for a while. They have done the legwork setting up all these characters. They've set up this universe, the relationships, who these people are, how they've developed. Tony Stark has had a really good bit of character development. I mean, yeah, I'm not really buying that. It's not for you, that's fine, but don't criticize it just because you haven't gone in and seen all the movies. If you're not a fan, that's fine. This movie really is made for people who are fans. And just sort of like, the seventh season of a TV show is made for fans. They expect people to know a little bit about it coming in. If you spend every episode establishing all the character relationships, then there goes every episode. That's all you're going to do after a while. So yeah, not buying that. That's a weak sauce critique, in my opinion. All right, now is where spoilers come in. If you haven't seen the movie, discussion of spoilers really will ruin a lot of it for you, I think. So I really strongly recommend you stop watching here. That'll hurt my Google metrics, but okay. So assuming that guy left, wow, right? Okay, I mean, they went ahead and pulled the trigger on that one, yeah. I did not expect that. I mean, I knew that there was something really big about the end of the movie. I kind of expected they would kill a few people. I did not expect that ending. Before we get into that, though, I want to talk about Thanos. They changed Thanos a bit. Thanos the Mad Titan, right? They did not, really go into explaining anything about who he is, really. They didn't go into a whole lot of detail about his motivation. And that's good, because there's no way to really make the fans, the hardcore comic book fans, happy and keep any sort of explanation of him short. So they left it more implied than stated outright. They didn't, like, there's a thing about he's half elemental, half Titan, and what's this? There was an actual civilization on Earth's moon Titan, and yeah. Not worrying about any of that. Pretty good. Excellent, actually. They left it sort of ambiguous, whether it was on, not Earth's moon, Saturn's moon, Titan, in our solar system, different planet, Titan, whether it was on in somewhere else entirely. When he said, take us to Titan, or I'll meet you on Titan, or something like that, I thought that was talking about Saturn's moon, because, talking about going to Earth, Titan makes for a handy-ish base nearby. But it wouldn't surprise me if he was willing to talk about. They had, the same name for somewhere else in a completely other place in the cosmos. But the thing that I really liked that they left out was that Thanos wants to woo Mistress Death by killing half the population of the universe. Good. That's just, the anthropomorphic personification of death as an actual existing being. Go ahead and leave that out. The way what they replaced it with, though, kind of iffy on that one. Instead, they made it into sort of like he's an environmental extremist. The populations will get too large; they'll consume the finite resources of the universe. I'm going to kill half of them so that people don't starve to death. This they explored a little bit in a couple of scenes, and the scene where he met Gamora. Kind of touching, giving her that knife and talking about balance, right? It both, establishes their relationship and shows that there is a bit of tenderness and caring there. But, I mean, it's easy to take that too far. Most environmentalists that I've met don't want to kill off people. Most just sort of somehow assume population problems will take care of themselves if we switch over to all organic and farm sustainably and decide that we want to control our population. I think with those who take that route. I mean, there definitely are extremists who would be sort of willing to kill off huge swaths of the population. They are definitely in the minority, though. So, I mean, that one could go good or bad, is what I'm saying. Another thing to talk about, his relationship with Gamora. Like I said, there actually was love and tenderness there on both sides. And it sort of showcased how abusive relationships can work. Because, never actually shown, but stated numerous times throughout the Guardian films, is that he was horrific to her. abusive to her. She hated him, wanted to get away from him. And his treatment of Nebula, his other daughter, shows the sort of thing he was willing to do. And the scene with the Soul Stone, we have to sacrifice something you love, the thing you love the most, I think. Gamora laughs, thinking that, he doesn't have anything he loves, therefore, haha, you lose, haha. And then he turns around and he's crying because he's going to kill her. And he grabs her, drags her over to the cliff, and throws her off, right? And it's done in absolute silence. It's... wow. It was hard to watch. One of the things you can sort of see her saying is that this isn't love. That's not love. Abusers can love their victims and still be horrible abusers. That's one of the things about being abusive. You don't think of what you're doing, the abuse that you're doing. You don't think of it as bad, right? Read through the book by the Pearls. I actually don't read it. It's awful. It's called How to Raise a Child, or Raising Up a Child, something like that. I won't put a link to it in the thing because fuck these people. I mean, they're spare the rod, spoil the child kind of Christians, and what they argue for is abuse, a lifetime of abuse. They tell you not to use your bare hand to hit your child because the hand should only give love. Instead, use things like spoons. Use actual implements to beat your child with. That doesn't make it better in any way. Kids aren't stupid. They know you're the one hitting them, even if you're not using your bare hand. And they have this thing called blanket training. You put your infant on, this small blanket, and every time they crawl off it, you hit them and put them back on it. And eventually, they learn never ever leave the blanket. And then you can walk away and leave them, and they'll never leave it. It's monstrous, right? And yet these people think of themselves as good, caring, loving Christians, right? Abusers don't think of what they're doing as bad. And that's kind of Thanos. And less of an extremist, he's less of a fanatic and more... he is a fanatic. He sees what he's doing as more kind of tough love than anything else. And yeah, he's also a very bad father. I mean, just take that message to heart. And yes, I am stating outright, if you hit your kids in any way, spanking them, blanket training them, any of that shit, yes, you are abusive and you should stop. And you should be ashamed of yourself. Go fuck yourself. Alright, so they pulled the trigger on the Infinity Gauntlet. Thanos got his wish. He won. And half the universe died, right? I was not expecting that. And then they go through and they kill half of the heroes. That was hard, too, because they could feel it. They knew it was coming. Especially Peter, with his spidey sense. Oh. If they don't find a way to undo that, because that was awful. They said people who die stay dead, right? They've said that before. They said that during the Civil War run, after... spoilers, they shot Steve Rogers. Or Steve Rogers was, assassinated on courthouse steps or something after unmasking himself. And Steve Rogers came back. So that didn't stick. So I don't... They killed off half their franchise. I mean, this is... it's a successful, it's a very well-made franchise. I really don't see them sticking with that because they want to keep making money with it. But also, Peter Parker's death was unacceptable. I really think they'll find a way to walk it back. And if they don't, I will give them such a pinch. And when I say they killed off half the heroes, I mean that literally. You look at the poster for the movie, there's 23 people on there. One of them is Thanos. And that gives you 22 heroes. By the end of the movie, 11 of them are dead. Also, I think they've left maybe some clues as to how they're going to walk it back. Or not necessarily how they'll walk it back, but that they'll walk it back. I can't remember the other one. I remembered two. I thought of two. The only one I can remember now is T'Challa. Going for a wounded warrior. This is no place for. This is nowhere. This is not no place for someone to die, right? And then he dies. Anyway, so maybe I'm thinking maybe the Infinity Gauntlet will. The Infinity Stones, as shown by Vision, the Infinity Stones were aware of what was coming. They didn't like it, and using the stones in that way sort of destroyed the gauntlet. Who knows? Maybe the stones will find a way to walk it back. But what I suspect they'll do is something more like what they did in the comics recently. Well, recently-ish. That they'll do a sort of reality merger kind of thing. Like maybe when Thanos killed off half the universe, what he actually did was split the universe in two, where half the heroes died in one reality, half of of everyone died in one reality, half of everyone died in the other reality. Who knows? I don't know. Maybe they'll do a multiverse thing and bring them together, things that were never combined. Maybe it was sort of a temporary split and they'll come back together. But either way, I think what they'll do is they'll keep the emotional impact, because people will spend a couple of movies. We have two movies coming up before the next Avengers movie, Ant-Man 2, or Ant-Man and Wasp, and Captain Marvel. So they'll definitely keep the emotional impact. They'll explore a universe where, at least on Earth, 3.5 plus billion people just died. I don't know how they can really, honestly, actually explore that, because that is trauma to literally everyone on Earth. Watching someone they love, well, die, and no one they can really turn to for comfort, because everyone is experiencing trauma. I don't know. I really have no idea how they could portray that with any sort of honesty and not just show a world in chaos. Side note, I think they're missing a bet. Spider-Man Homecoming showcased that New York City in 2018 or 2017 is a very different place from New York City 1972, right? Where decades of white flight and racial polarization had just turned America's cities into absolute shitholes, right? But I'm saying they're missing a bet, because after a couple, like an alien invasion, a couple of alien invasions, and just increasing numbers of superheroes and supervillains running around, there's going to be a lot of damage going on out there. New tech floating around, things like that. Things will have arguably gotten worse, and institutional responses to that, police, politics, just regular people, is always going to be fairly slow. So I'm saying that the criminals will have ramped it up before, governments and police and so on have been able to catch up. And of course, the response will not be everything you could hope. So I'm saying that they're missing a bet. Steve's arguments against the Sokovia Accords could have been better, and we could be looking at more organized crime, more violent crime. Anyway, point is, I think we're going to be looking at a very different Marvel universe going forward. And one last thing to throw in there. Maybe they'll take advantage of this to let some of the actors retire. Getting steady work is good, but having been in a whole bunch of blockbusters, a lot of these actors probably don't need the money quite so much anymore, and can focus on the art, start doing some of those arty pieces. And also, some of them are getting up there a bit. a bit. Robert Downey Jr. is in his early 50s, I think. So, maybe they can, like Stark, after, watching Peter die in his arms. And living out literally his worst nightmare that was introduced after Avengers, introduced in Iron Man 3. Maybe he'll just say, "Okay, I'm done. I'm gonna go sit and pout for a while." And he can still have a minor role, but yeah, a recurring role sort of thing. But maybe he and a few others can step back and let the Marvel Universe develop in new directions. I don't know. We'll see. Anywho, those are my thoughts on Infinity War. Love to hear your thoughts. You can catch up with me on Twitter. That's down below. I also am part of a weekly podcast, Dungeons and Debacles, and some friends. We're trying to unleash an ancient evil to sort of destroy the world. And like, share, subscribe, that sort of thing. I'm really now in a kind of a down mood. I'm gonna have to go live vicariously through video games for a while and cheer myself up. All right. See you later.